Obviously, there's an infamous clip of you waving him off. But talk to us about some of the headbutting you guys had and what kind of understanding you eventually came to.
6. Kobe pointing, now setting the screen. Shot clock at 2. Lin has to heave and buries it. With a chance to tie as we take another look at Lin's shot.
Always better player going to the right, but that is some kind.
Lin working in concert with each other. Kobe was.
At that time, he was coming back from injuries, and then he was also going through some injuries. But he was like, he was like 35-year-old Kobe with a 25-year-old Kobe mind, and so like he had it in him that he wanted to prove to the world, like all the reporters who say he couldn't come back from his Achilles or other injuries, like he had this like intense level of like, I'm going to prove you wrong to the reporters. And so he was shooting like, there are games where he shoot 45 shots and there were, it got to a point where there were a few games where he had shot us out of the game. And again, it was just, he was at a point where he was going through so many tough injuries at an age that his body couldn't keep up with the demands. And so that's where like me and the rest of the team, like we had different thoughts. And so I remember I would go head to head with him and we would like, because he doesn't sleep, like he slept like 2 or 3 hours a night. And then I would be up because we would lose. So when we lose, like I would always be up at like 3, 4 and I would be watching film. So we'd be texting at 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, arguing with each other, conflicting with each other. And it got to the point where I was like, I told him, this is how it started. I said, look, you're Kobe. Like I'm coming in trying to learn from you. Okay. So like, I'm okay with anything as long as you talk to me like a man, like in terms of like, don't talk down to me like I'm a boy, talk to me like a man and respect me. And then, he had always said like, everybody just says what I want them to say. Like it's very rare that somebody actually stands up to me. And so for me in that situation, as we were going back and forth, I finally had enough. That's why I waved him off that one time too. Cause I was like, I've seen like, I don't want to go down this path again. We got to get something else going. We got to get some ball movement. But basically like after that text message conversation, where we were going back and forth with each other, like we didn't speak for the last 4 months of the season. Like nobody knew, nobody on the team knew. But for me, that was like something I was willing to accept because I said what I needed to say to him. And if he didn't like that and he was like, I'm not going to engage in, or like, I'm not going to talk to you anymore. I was like, all right, cool. I can live with that. At least I said what I needed to say. On the flip side, there were times when I was younger in my career where things would happen to me and I didn't say what I should have said.
Right.
And that was what like, basically then I would end up getting pumped. But the cool thing about this story is we didn't speak for the last 4 months of the season. And then the next year was his final year. And that's when I was with Charlotte and I was playing really well. And in the middle of the game is when we buried the hatchet and we said, like, you know what, it's over. And so we started talking to each other. We were asking about each other's families like we were before. And then even after the game, we started texting again. He was giving me some advice on my game. And my whole thing the whole time was like, look, I'm not saying I'm better than you. I'm not saying any of that. I'm saying when you talk to me, don't talk down to me. And I'm ready to listen and I'm ready to try to help this team in whatever way is possible. And for me, that was a big step because again, growing up in the Asian culture, it's like, don't step on the toes of the boss or whatever. But for me, I'm like, I got to a point where I was like, look, this is who I am and this is what I need to do as a player. And I feel like actually him not talking to me, I feel like that was actually a sign of respect. Like he was like, you know what? I'm pissed at you, but I actually respect you because you actually said something to me versus like so many other people won't. And that's why the next season when I was in Charlotte, like he was like, I mean, we talked, it was just like, it like never happened. He was just like, we're back to normal. How's your family? How can I help? What advice can I give you? And that was my experience with him. And I learned a lot and I grew a lot.
I love it. That's a great story. Glad you shared it here.